What to do if you have an immature husband. In this video, we will talk about what to do if a man does not want to grow up and does not want to take responsibility. Let's talk about what a woman can do to change the situation in her family or relationship. Because if one person in a relationship refuses to take responsibility, naturally they shift that responsibility onto the other. Before we move on to discussing this video, I ask you to click the subscribe button and like this video so that as many people as possible can see it. So let's get started. What should be done for a man to understand that things can be different and that he must take on some responsibility? The first thing is, do not play the role of a caretaker. Often a woman creates an immature man with her own hands. In other words, he might want things to be different, but he really doesn't feel the need to make an effort. He throws his socks around and she will just pick them up for him. He cannot find a job. She is looking for some job listings for him, but still she will provide him with a decent living, meaning he will be well-fed, clean, dressed, and everything will be fine for him. In other words, the woman herself creates that very infantile person. Give him the opportunity to be an adult. He can fulfill some of his basic needs on his own. And yes, you are not your man's mother in the relationship. That mother worried about whether everything was okay with her boy, but the boy has grown up, and now it's time for him to take on certain responsibilities. So stop playing the caretaker. Stop treating him like a child. Give the man the opportunity to express himself in the relationship as a man. This is already the first step. The man begins to mature. Next comes praise, but only the right kind of praise. If an emotionally mature adult man can be praised just for being himself, for everything he does, then an immature man should be praised for specific actions like these. For example, he never picked up those socks that he scattered around the house, but now he has started to tidy up some things behind him. It is necessary to notice and reinforce his actions with praise. That is, if he does something that he hasn't done before, even if you understand that it should be taken for granted and that he is, in principle, supposed to do it. It is so hard to praise him for doing what he is supposed to do, but by reinforcing with praise, the man understands that he is appreciated for what he does. He realizes that he is doing well and correctly, and at that moment he again understands that he can take on some responsibility, so praise is necessary. In fact, men with an infantile mindset often have many complexes. He feels that it is better to do nothing at all than to do something and make a mistake. In other words, he often fears doing something wrong and is afraid of making mistakes. So if you praise him, you will also help him get rid of certain psychological complexes. And if you say that you believe in this man, that he will succeed, then he will gradually start to believe in himself. Do not criticize his attempts at independence. An immature man is like a small child. When you start to criticize him, he may shut down and, for example, refrain from doing it again to avoid hurting his pride. It is better for him not to do it than to do it in a way that will lead to criticism. Therefore, if he does something wrong, try to turn a blind eye to it. Do not point out his mistakes in relation to his displays of maturity. Try to praise and acknowledge those moments, showing that you see and notice them. Moving on. Partnership relationships. Try not to take on too much responsibility in the relationship, but also explain to the man that he has certain responsibilities as well. In other words, if a woman, for example, grabs a hammer to drive in a nail because her man won't be able to do it, then there is no talk of any partnership, because she is not allowing him to mature. Define for yourself what your area of influence is in the relationship, that is, what you are responsible for in this relationship, and define the man's area of responsibility. Discuss with the man where his responsibility lies and where yours does, so that he understands. And no matter how much you want to grab that hammer once again, because maybe the man won't be able to do it now or tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, but you need it right this minute. You need to pull yourself back and stop at that moment, because if you don't change your attitude towards family, everything will remain as it was. Give the man the opportunity to mature, to reach for that hammer, to drive in that nail, and ultimately praise him for what he has done. And it is at that moment that a man will begin to understand that this is his responsibility. He will feel differently. At some point, he will start to enjoy feeling like an adult, having some responsibility and achieving something, and he will even be praised for it. Next, joint decision-making on certain tasks. Again, if you are already used to being the one in charge in the relationship, it is likely that you make certain decisions. perhaps even without consulting or informing your man. So now make it a rule that if you always want to change something in your family and want the man to make some decisions and be more responsible in the relationship, then make it a habit to consult him about everything. How to do it better, as he thinks is necessary here, how he would act in this situation. Perhaps he wants to do something in this situation himself, meaning providing him with a choice and giving him the opportunity to resolve a situation when you don't take everything upon yourself. Part of the responsibility automatically shifts to the man. When a man sees that a woman is handling everything well, he doesn't need to exert himself, he doesn't need to do anything, and he can remain in that childlike state where he is not responsible for anything. He will like it, he will do it, but as soon as he realizes that it doesn't work that way anymore, that is, things have changed in the relationship and he needs to take responsibility, you do not take that responsibility out of his hands, but give him the opportunity. He may make mistakes, do it wrong, but he should do it. And at some point, he will feel the ground beneath his feet. That is, at some moment, a man will understand that I can do it, I am strong, I can handle tasks. It is not as scary as it seemed inside, as it was initially. So teach your man to make some decisions, consult with him and discuss. Your relationship is a partnership where two people invest in the relationship. And the decisions made are, once again, the decisions of both people. Your sacrifice is another point on which the relationship with an infantile person is built. That is, I will do things, but I will suffer. I will think that everything around me is bad. My man is not very good, but I will do it and pity myself, feel unhappy, and slide into a victim state. Naturally, you won't create anything from this state. Nothing good usually comes from a victim mentality. Usually something beautiful comes together for people who take responsibility and try to change something. So if you replace your victimhood with just a conversation, if you don't like that you've taken on too much, explain to the man, say that you are not ready to take on what you have taken on, but that it is no longer your area of responsibility. Distribute responsibilities, and again, do not take part of the man's responsibility upon yourself. Next, what tasks would he like to perform? Discuss with the man what he would like and where to start. Here he does nothing, perhaps he is not working and he does nothing around the house, he can't find a job anywhere, and he doesn't help with the children, and you realize that you are working and taking care of the children and everything is on you and the house is on you. So first, define the situation. For example, sit down at a round table and discuss it. What would he like to do? Explain that it won't be like this anymore. There are situations when a woman simply takes action without discussion and shows the man that it won't be like this going forward. That is, for example, she stops cooking for him, removes some of his things, stops feeding him and stops giving him pocket money. That is, if he is not working, he still needs money. He wants to meet up with friends somewhere, for example, to drink beer. He needs to go somewhere, for instance, to take a trip. The car needs to be filled with gasoline or something like that. In other words, the man has some expenses, and this money is given to him by a woman because the man is not working and cannot get it from anywhere. And at the moment, when a woman starts to cut off these moments without discussion, it could have been talked about again, but there are methods that are more complicated. Then the man understands that it can't go on like this, starts looking for a job and begins to take on some responsibility. But in order to reach a man, he needs to feel that he is responsible for himself in this life. Next, show him your confidence in him. While discussing certain points, give him that belief in himself. Tell him that he will definitely succeed in something, that you believe he may be going through a difficult period right now, but he will surely achieve some goals. Guide him when necessary, help him, direct him, but let the man feel that everything he does in terms of his self-fulfillment, employment, or responsibilities is done independently. Just give him the necessary direction and then don't argue. I will repeat, for example, if a man has never handled paying utility bills and now you have determined that this is no longer your area of responsibility since he is not working, he has now taken on some household tasks and is paying the utility bills. Naturally, when he has never done this before, he might do something wrong. Therefore, discuss, talk, and suggest some points if he, for example, made a mistake in paying a bill or paid the wrong amount. Don't scold him, discuss it and talk. If you want to change something, you need to change your attitude in the long run so that the relationship ultimately changes and your man feels his strength. It is essential to maintain your calmness, confidence, and attention, giving more attention to the man, which means helping him to mature. But under no circumstances should you scold or criticize the man. At some point, he may completely withdraw, retreating into his shell because he is already scared and has not yet matured inside. He won't be able to cope. Here again is a common mistake made by women when she takes everything upon herself, and she conveys this to a man who already doubts himself, and thus he is also, let's say, not yet internally mature. The woman mentally understands that he won't manage, and she doesn't want to give him any responsibility. She might say things like, "Oh, you won't do it anyway, you won't cope, you're as useful as milk," and so on. In other words, women talk a lot, and she may say this with the hope that he might hear her and want to change something, but at that moment he hears that he will never succeed anyway, so there's no point in even trying to do anything, which is why you shouldn't criticize and, again, detach yourself. If certain methods are not working, meaning you already understand that you have tried certain methods, try to detach. Again, this could be a limitation of certain resources. One could stop cooking for him and filling the fridge to the brim so that the man understands, "Oh, now I want to eat," but there's basically nothing to eat. For example, "I want to go out with friends to meet somewhere, but I can't because I don't have the means for this meeting." Now the man understands that he is responsible for himself, that his wife is not a mother who will feed him or put a few rubles in his pocket to make everything okay for him. No, he must meet some of his basic needs himself. A man can change significantly. At this moment, he begins to realize that in this life, no one owes him anything. The most harmful advice to help you grow from an infantile person into a real man includes reproaches, accusations, demands, and complaints, none of which will work and may even worsen the situation. If you understand that you want something different from your relationship, that you see this man beside you and want a long-term relationship with him, then you need to gather strength and patience now. Do not criticize, do not complain, do not insult, do not reproach, believe, and at times praise him, allowing the man to strengthen internally. Moving on, you are taking on too much. Again, you write about what is your area of responsibility and what is your man's area of responsibility. You can even hang this somewhere in a prominent place so that every time you want to do something for a man and take his responsibility upon yourself, you see that it is not worth doing. And again, this will be seen by the man. That is, he will see where his area of responsibility lies. It's like a reminder. At some point, a man begins to get used to a new way of life and to the fact that he has some responsibilities. The realization that things will not be the same as before, and under no circumstances should you take on male duties. All women can do men's work, lift heavy things, and we can all drive a nail, but that's what men are for. If you start to change responsibilities and take on more, then someone else takes on less responsibility. Therefore, allow the man to be a man in the relationship. Finally, hand him the responsibility for your family. And if this man does not yet believe in himself, you should believe in him. Perhaps your faith and understanding that he is your man and that you need to nurture him a little will help him in the future. Your relationship will only bring you joy. That's all from me in this video. I was Alice Vardomska. I hope for your likes and subscriptions. Write in the comments what you would like to discuss in my new videos. Don't forget to hit the bell, and goodbye everyone.